Well, if it isn't Josh the Punk Thomson back at it again with the clear hate that he has for Khamzat Chimaev. And in this video, we are going to take a look at a little sit-down thing that he did here called Bad Takes on the YouTube channel of We Want Picks. I'll go ahead and link it down below. And look, man, whenever we hear Josh Thomson talk about Khamzat Chimaev, this is something that I've covered in the past and talked about it. He clearly does not like Khamzat Chimaev. He clearly doesn't, right? And you're going to hear him say, I don't dislike Khamzat Chimaev and all these different things. And you could say, Jake, how do you know he doesn't like him? Well, obviously, he's going to continuously point out all the negatives about Khamzat. If you've never heard him talk about him before, he clearly just hates on the guy the whole time. But even if he does say something positive about Khamzat, he can't go saying something positive without bringing up a negative thing immediately after. And whenever I add those things together, that just tells me that you don't like somebody, right? In my opinion, at least. So in this video, we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to react and give my thoughts because numerous people sent me this video and were like, you're not going to believe what you're going to hear here from Josh. And I'm not shocked by anything that I heard from Josh Thomson because every time he talks about Chimaev, we get to hear him just basically be a hater, right? That's what it comes down to. And look, Angelo, credit to him in this video, right? Because we're going to go over, what Josh was saying, and I'm going to react to what Josh is saying. But Angelo had some pretty solid rebuttals towards what Josh was saying about Khamzat. Like, Josh is just so out of his mind when he's talking about Chimaev, man. I don't know if he's doing it for engagement, just to rile people up and get a reaction, because it always does. But I mean, when the title of the video is How Bad is Khamzat Chimaev, that is clearly going to get people reacting like I am right now. So maybe that's part of it. But given the pattern that we've seen from Josh, I just think that this is how he feels about Khamzat Chimaev. So we'll discuss a little bit more of that throughout this video, but let's hop right into this because keep in mind as well, this was Josh's video idea in terms of the topic that they're talking about here for Khamzat Chimaev. So let's take a listen. I'm going to let it rip and react to different parts of this.
Well, let's be honest. How bad is Khamzat Chimaev? Why is everyone talking about how great he is? Let's talk about how bad is he? How bad is he?
How bad is Khamzat Chimaev? This is like just so disrespectful, man. Like the guy is undefeated throughout his entire professional career inside the UFC. He has just went out there, dominated Robert Whittaker, beat Kamaru Usman, beat Gilbert Burns, and then everyone before them, even though, yeah, he did run through Robert Whittaker, everyone else, he just completely demolished. Khamzat Chimaev, he had everyone on his run early when he entered the UFC. Like, we were like, this dude's going to run to the top. He's going to be finishing everybody inside the first round. And I think that the expectations became so high that everyone just expects Khamzat to go out there and beat everybody in a minute. Like, when you're fighting the best of the best, man, that probably isn't going to happen. Maybe it happens sometimes depending on the matchup, but that is not a realistic expectation. So keep an eye on what Josh is saying throughout this and how basically unrealistic his expectations are for Khamzat, because it's just crazy to spend. How bad is Khamzat? The guy's undefeated.
He beat Zhang Liang Li, right? Dominant performance when he could make 170.
You see that right there? He goes, oh, a very dominant performance, which it was, right? Then, oh, when he could make 170. So that's how, when people are like, Jake, how are you going to say that Josh just doesn't like Khamzat Chimaev? Because whenever you throw out a compliment about someone and then you immediately follow it up, but did you see this or did you know this? You clearly are trying to find a reason to dislike because you just don't like him, right? That's my opinion on it.
Okay. Then he goes around, he fights Gerald Meerschaert. Good KO punch, 17 seconds, whatever it was, right? I understand where we're at on that fight. Gilbert Burns.
Wait, that was his very next fight was Gilbert
No,
Burns?
no, it went Gerald Meerschaert, Lee, and then it went Burns.
So again, something important to keep in note here for Khamzat, he was bouncing around weight classes, right? Remember when he bursted onto the scene in the UFC? He was like, I'll fight at 170, 185, and he was just kind of bouncing around until he kind of realized, like, I can't make 170 pounds without compromising myself. I will make the move to middleweight. So those are important things to factor in here.
Burns.
Oh, okay.
Where's I look at Burns took him to deep waters, dropped him in the third, really pushed him, And we are seeing where Gilbert Burns is now.
Okay, so again, this to me, this isn't even, how is this even a point? Because Gilbert Burns, back when Khamzat fought him, that was basically still Gilbert Burns in his prime, right? Gilbert went out there and beat, it was kind of an older Masvidal, went out there and submitted Neil Magny. So it's not like Burns was a complete scrub and on this losing streak that he's on now when he fought Khamzat Chimaev. Like, that's what he's making it sound like. And by the way, Gilbert's recent losses are all outside of the Chimaev loss. Sean Brady, who is possibly going to be a future champion at some point. Bilal Muhammad was the champion, lost to Jack Della Maddalena, who is the champion, and then just lost to a guy that looks like a damn middleweight in there, in Michael Morales, who is unquestionably one of the most dangerous contenders in the welterweight division. Those are his losses. He's acting like Gilbert Burns is just like this complete washed up scrub. And I know Gilbert's not in his prime anymore, but back when Khamzat fought him, that was a very solid version of Gilbert Burns, and the Gilbert that showed up that night, he clearly had a chip on his shoulder with a point to prove. But you will hear how Josh basically holds it against Khamzat Chimaev that he got into a dogfight with Gilbert Burns. It's craziness.
I know, look, we are, 3 years removed? That's a long time in the fight world. That's at least 6 fights, 2, 4, 6, in 3 years removed. So we're coming up, it's almost, it's about at least 4 to 5 fights that's in there, at least. For him. He's not an active fighter, though. So we got Kevin Holland, dominant performance, took a guy down who's tall, long, and lanky, took him down, submitted him pretty quickly.
Destroyed Kevin Holland, right? And again, there was all the shuffling around on that card because Khamzat missed weight and all these different things. And then that was when he committed to the move to 185 pounds, which I was like, look, he can't keep making 170 pounds. We keep hearing how big he is, how hard the weight cut is. 185 is always going to be the move. But don't act like Kevin Holland's someone who's bounced around between 185, 170, and he wasn't preparing for Khamzat, and Khamzat wasn't preparing for him, but they agreed to a weight. Kevin Holland probably got a bag, to take the fight, but he took the fight. Like, he holds every little thing against Khamzat Chimaev, man. Holds every little thing against him. And the inactivity. Khamzat Chimaev, he got incredibly sick, man, during the pandemic, and he had numerous issues health-wise, right? And that's kind of been the theme. It's not like Khamzat's just sitting around on the sideline like, I'll fight once a year. I just don't want to be active. It's not by choice, man. The guy has had health problems. Like, people consistently hold the health issues that Khamzat has had against the guy. The dude was fought twice within 2 weeks. And then was going on a crazy run, and then the pandemic. He got sick and all these different things, and people continue to hold it against him. Where's everyone pointing out, the inactivity from some of these other big-name fighters, right? And sometimes you hear people do, but you clearly see that Josh just does not like Khamzat, man. Clearly.
That part. Kamaru Usman, short notice, fighting up a whole weight class, former champion. You got to give Kamaru Usman a lot of credit for stepping up on short notice. A lot of guys were avoiding the Chimaev fight. Who wins the third round? Kamaru Usman wins the third round. He was able to take him down. He was able to do some damage. He was able to actually make him work. So my next question is, and then he fights Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is known. He has made it very clear.
By the way, when did Usman take Khamzat down? What fight was Josh watching? What fight was Josh watching? And at the end of the day, Kamaru Usman, he did take the fight on, 9 days notice, but he signed on the dotted line to show up and fight. I get how people are going to say, well, Khamzat should have just went out there. He was the guy that had a full camp. He was the guy who committed to 185 pounds. Usman's a welterweight. All those different things. At the end of the day, he signed on the dotted line. He showed up, and early on, no one does that to Kamaru Usman. What Khamzat did to him in round number 1, no one does that to Usman. Nobody does that to Usman. I don't care if it's on a month notice, 3 months notice, a day notice. Nobody does that to Kamaru Usman. We have never seen it. And Khamzat went out there and destroyed him in the first round. And then apparently he broke his hand or had, some sort of injury there. And he was compromised and still went out there and fought the duration of the fight, got to the judges' scorecards and was able to win. And you'll hear this theme of Josh holding it against Khamzat of how quick his fights are. But then yet he's went the distance with Kamaru Usman, who's a former champion, one of the greatest welterweights of all time. This was the fight, where Khamzat was, basically dedicating his move to middleweight, acting like as if he wasn't a welterweight before, is Josh almost here. And we've seen Khamzat go the distance twice with 2 really high-level fighters, and Josh almost holds that against him, that the fights are too quick, but then that he went the distance with these guys. Khamzat can't win in the eyes of Josh Thomson, I guess.
I've had my teeth pushed in before. I know exactly what it was when he got to that choke. It was more of a face crank. It pushed my teeth in. I got nervous because, obviously it's my teeth. I don't know what I'm going to have to do. Like, I don't know the extent of the damage. I don't know any of those things. I just know that my teeth were pushed in. That's it. It wasn't something that Chimaev, it was something that he did, but it wasn't something that like, oh man, he was so strong, he pushed his teeth in. No, it wasn't that. It's happened before to Robert Whittaker. So I guess I'm getting to the point of how bad is he?
Bro, like, how can you take, like, if we're going to do that, people just need to start, pulling all the little excuses that they can find for fighters when they come into a fight. How is he not going to talk about the fact that Khamzat Chimaev shot a beautiful low double from about 100 yards away, got a hold of Robert Whittaker, was backing him up against the fence, pressuring him, got to his back, was able to take him down and put him in that position. You know how impressive that is to do that to Robert Whittaker? Khamzat Chimaev went up to 185 pounds, got thrown in there against an unbelievably elite middleweight that we've seen throughout his career in Robert Whittaker, and he doesn't give him any credit for that, right? I mean, what is happening? Like, oh, well, yeah, it was just the jaw of Robert Whittaker, and yeah, Robert Whittaker said that he had some issues there, but to get in that position, he would have finished the choke, I think, regardless, right? And at the end of the day, he put him in a nasty face crank. Look at what Khamzat Chimaev was able to do to Whittaker. Take him down, reshoot, take him down again, get to his back, get to the body lock, leg ride. That is all incredibly high-level stuff. Josh just looks for any reason to hate on this guy, man.
Or is he good? Is he good? And I'm saying mediocre good. We're going to find out when he fights DDP. But my thing is...
Yeah, we're going to find out how good he is, right? So this is the logic that Josh Thomson is bringing to the table. What you're going to hear him also allude to as well in this is basically almost that, like, he's waiting for DDP to fraud check Khamzat Chimaev. A fraud check does not happen when you fight for a world title. How is that a fraud check? That Khamzat's going to go out there and take on at this point, one of the greatest middleweights that we've probably ever seen by the time it's all said and done in Dricus du Plessis, a just complete danger inside the division. I mean, he's went out there, won every fight since he's been in the organization. He's going out there beating everybody. And but if Khamzat's going to lose to him, well, we're going to find, it's just ridiculous, man.
We've seen where Gilbert Burns is at now. Kevin Holland went through, more slump after he lost to him. Then, he fights Kamaru Usman on 1 week's notice, coming up in weight from a 70 to 85. Struggled, lost the third round. Robert Whittaker, very fast fight, but because of injury already.
He discredits everything. He discredits every single thing that Khamzat has done. So basically, Khamzat has done almost no good in the eyes of Josh Thomson. But you'll hear him say, if it was one round, he's the best fighter and all these different things. But all he does is nitpick and discredit him. And then he throws in those little things about, he's so good in a round and all this and that to try to make it not seem like he's a hater when he clearly is. Because everything that he brings up, sure, I understand, Usman took the fight on short notice, and I know Khamzat dominated the first round, but because the expectations were so high, because it was on short notice for Usman, there's all these, people have all these doubts, and then he goes out there and does it to Whittaker, and now it's his jaw. It's always something whenever Khamzat wins a fight. Just saying.
Something he's been known to have with the teeth being pushed in. So is he as good as we think he is? I've said this for the longest time. The sample size is not big enough for me with Chimaev. It's just not big enough. Are we giving him too much credit? Are we giving him the Habib credit?
Okay, so before he gets into this here, Josh Thomson, basically, I broke this down before whenever he gave some ridiculous takes on Chimaev. He basically, the fact that Khamzat finishes fights so quickly, doesn't need the full 15 minutes most of the time, doesn't need to get into the championship rounds because he's able to finish Robert Whittaker in a round, that's not good enough for Josh Thomson because there's not a big enough sample size. So he basically holds it against Khamzat for going out there and finishing fights very quickly. Am I missing something there? Because he went the full 15 minutes twice with Burns and Usman, two high-level fighters. Goes out there, destroys Robert Whittaker in his first 5-round fight in the UFC. He doesn't need all the championship rounds. He doesn't need to get to the championship rounds because he can finish the fight quickly. So he holds it against him.
Because everyone's like, oh, he's Muslim. Oh, he's got the beard. Oh, he can wrestle. Are we giving him the Khabib credit? No one is like Khabib. Nobody is like Islam. Nobody is like these younger guys that are coming up. Are we giving them credit because we associate the two things? They are not the same.
Dude, when Khamzat first came into the UFC, were people saying, like, this is the next Khabib and all these different things? Like, people were out there saying that, and people were drawing comparisons because of, the grappling style, the way he's able to take people down, control them, maul them. They're very different stylistically, man. They're very different all around. They're very different style of fighters. And no one said, whoever said he was fights like Islam, no one's saying that Khamzat is those guys, and nobody's saying that those guys are Khamzat. They're all their own style of fighters. That's what makes fighting so interesting. They all have their very different styles. Nobody, like, where's this expectation coming from that Khamzat is supposed to be 29-0, Khabib, like Khabib, moving forward, like Khabib is Khabib. Khamzat's even said numerous times, like, I appreciate the comparisons, but I'm Khamzat. Josh is like the one that's basically holding. So that kind of, I guess, tells us where this is coming from. And yes, Josh Thomson has a very good relationship with Khabib, and Khabib's an absolute legend. He's clearly holding Khamzat to what he believes the standard should be because of what Khabib has done. They're not the same person. They're different style of fighters. Khamzat is this overwhelmingly like all or nothing, goes for broke so early in the fight. It's a very different style of approach. Who's going out there saying, oh, Khamzat's Khabib? Those comparisons kind of slowed down after we saw Khamzat kind of make his wave in the UFC. He just became Khamzat. He kind of left that shadow of where everyone was comparing him. So is that where all this is coming from? That Josh just has these like expectations to where he's supposed to just dominate every round, completely control everybody? For like, Khabib is one of one, dog. Like, he is one of one. Like, yeah, they have similar qualities because of the style of grappling, but it's still very different. So, like, what the fact that he just keeps comparing him to Khabib, I just think that that's crazy.
They are not the same. Khabib didn't get tired. Tell me when he got tired. He got tired after whooping Connor's ass in the second round. He gassed in the third. He took a round off. That's not being tired. That's just like, hey, understanding what's at stake. Let me go ahead and take a round off. I'm going to finish you in the fourth. And that's exactly what he did. Didn't leave anything up to the judges.
Okay, look. See, this is what I was just talking about, man. Like, why is he comparing what Khamzat is doing to Khabib? Like, yes, people have said that stylistically there are similarities or whatever, but they're very different. And why are you talking about, oh, well, Khabib, no one, Khabib was one of one, man. Like, all of what he said is facts. Like, Khabib went out there, destroyed Conor McGregor, basically never lost around, all these different things. And no, he really didn't ever get tired. He would go out there and just do what he did, and that's what made Khabib an absolute legend. But why is that like in the conversation about Khamzat? Why does he have to bring up like what Khabib has done and like scale that to Khamzat? You see the problem here? How are you going to do that like when you're trying to evaluate Khamzat? So is that what he's doing to get these takes? Like just evaluating everything for Khamzat, to Khabib? Khabib's one of one. Khamzat is Khamzat. Like, what does that have to do with Chimaev? Oh, well, Chimaev gets a little bit tired because he goes out there and goes for broke so early on. He overexerts himself trying to get, the early finish, so that if he can't get it, we see a little bit of a dip in energy. But we saw him go 15 minutes and not give up in two of those fights with Burns and Usman. Comparing to the dominance of Khabib is just, that's like unrealistic almost for anybody. Sure, Chimaev is very dominant in the first round for sure, but that dominance that Khabib brought, we may never see that again. So why is that the comparison?
Brother, you bring all these people from Ireland. They watch you. I put you choke. They watch you tap. Brother, you tap. You let all these guys come from Ireland and watch you tap. Why? Okay, you understand. Okay, Chimaev. I'm asking you, is he as good as people think? Or are we getting a fraud check here soon with DDP?
Are we getting a fraud check here soon with DDP? Like his whole, so basically it sounds to me like every time, like I said, he talks about Chimaev, he has to compare him to Khabib, but why? They're different people. They're different fighters. They have different career paths. They have different, I don't understand that. I genuinely don't understand that. That's like taking some flyweight on the rise and trying to compare him to Demetrius Johnson the whole time. Like, well, yeah, I mean, he got kind of tired there. He's not as well-rounded as Mighty Mouse. Like, What are you doing? You're comparing a guy who's a star in the sport, who's making his way here in Chimaev and finally getting a title opportunity. You constantly keep comparing him to one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. So is that your expectation for him? Like, that's great to have those expectations, but to basically compare everything that Khabib was doing in terms of, the gas tank and all this and that to Chimaev, they're different fighters. They're different fighters. So to me, it's ridiculous. And then to say, oh, well, basically a fraud check coming in here from DDP, a fraud check in a world title fight. How is that a fraud check? Against Dricus du Plessis, who was an absolute monster. It's not a fraud check. It's not a fraud check. A fraud check would have been he got thrown in there against Gerald Meerschaert and, Khamzat's winning, and then Gerald Meerschaert takes over in the third round or something and submits him. That would maybe be a fraud check. Or he goes in there with Gilbert Burns and gets, 30-27, gets absolutely battered from bell to bell. But to go in there and against Dricus du Plessis, who's an absolute machine, and lose a title fight, a world title fight, that's a fraud check? It's insane, man. You can clearly hear from Josh Thomson, just it's craziness, man, the bias that he has against Chimaev. But let's move on here to where he talks about the Luke Rockhold grappling match. Because if you have not seen this, Khamzat grappled with Luke Rockhold where it was basically, they were just rolling together, getting some jiu-jitsu work in. And it was very impressive, right? Because Luke Rockhold, he is a very well-known guy in the MMA world, especially in the realm of the UFC, for having really good wrestling, really solid jiu-jitsu skills. And Khamzat was taking it to him, man, right? So you're going to hear Josh kind of talk about that. But then immediately he goes he compliments, but then every time he compliments, he has to throw in something negative after. So let's take a listen to this.
We'll give him credit. I will give Chimaev credit. I saw the video of him and Luke Rockhold. Him and Luke Rockhold on the ground together. He had a very good performance against Luke. I've trained with Luke years and years. For my Benson Henderson fight, all I had to train with, really, and spar with and grapple with was Luke Rockhold, because he had a fight around the same time. Around the exact same time. I think he was fighting Weidman at that time. So he was getting ready for a title fight, only using me and Dwight Grant, who was also later on in the 170, 185 pound weight class in the UFC, but was not in the UFC at the time. We were his only two training partners for that whole camp, coming through November, December into January for the fights. And he had a great performance when I watched that grappling. I know we're talking about practice, as Allen Iverson would say. What? We talking about practice?
Here you go with the hate, man. Here you go with the hate.
So it comes into that feeling of he is fantastic when he is fresh. But we've seen him wilt in rounds 2, rounds 3. He got dropped by Gilbert Burns, and look at Gilbert since they fought. Can't seem to buy a win right now. And so is he as bad or is he as good as people want to make him? Or I don't think he's as good as people want him to be.
I mean, it's just insane, man. It's insane, dude. It's absolutely insane. And it makes me feel like I think that he does believe this, but it's almost like he's trying to get people fired up and be like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, try to get that type of response, because when did Khamzat ever wilt? In those fights that went the distance against Burns and Usman, when did he give up? When did he crumble and fold under the pressure? He never did. He was getting dropped he got dropped by Gilbert Burns, got back up and kept scrapping until the bell sounded and went the distance with Gilbert Burns in his toughest test to date. We got to see that he's a dog. We got to see that he can dig deep. Isn't that what someone who criticizes Khamzat like Josh Thomson does? Like, isn't that enough? Right? Because I think if Khamzat went in there and like his coach was screaming at him to do, don't brawl with Gilbert Burns, fight at range and utilize your striking from the outside, you could pick Gilbert Burns apart and win the fight much easier. And watching it again, I very much agree with Khamzat's coach on that assessment. I think Khamzat could have definitely won that fight quite a bit easier. But to wilt? When has he ever wilted? When has he ever wilted? And how bad is Khamzat? The guy's undefeated, man. He's undefeated. He has beaten some spectacular fighters, and nobody does that to Robert Whittaker, man. Nobody does that to Robert Whittaker. But let's move on here to where he makes it sound like he just basically can't perform, right? Basically saying, you heard him get to it there with, but that's in practice, man. We're talking about practice, right? The old Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice, man. Like, who really cares type of deal. Everyone talks about how, when they train with Chimaev, what a beast he is and all these different things. And Khamzat has showed up in every single fight, man. Like, where is Josh getting this shit, man? I just do not get it. We'll take a listen.
My personal opinion is that may have something to do with it. But on top of that, what were the stories that you had heard a long, long time ago about Vitor Belfort? Did you ever hear those stories? Greatest athlete greatest fighter inside the ring, inside the practice. He was destroying everybody. But there was moments when he got out there, the pressure.
Things got tough, and he was like,
got tough and just folded. And look,
when has that happened to Chimaev in a fight, dog? When has that happened? When is he just, man, I can't take no more? Like Bo Nickel against RDR. When does that happen? Jose Aldo, who was looking like he was like on the ropes, trying to find a way to survive. That's how he's acting. Like it was Jose Aldo who blew his gas tank in the third round and was like, I just need to pull guard and survive. Like he's acting like that's Chimaev. Where's that kind of criticism there? But he's criticizing Chimaev for getting into a dogfight with Burns. And I mean, how dare him go to decision with a world-class fighter and a former champion in Kamaru Usman? Like, you see what I'm saying here, man? Like, he has these, like, I don't know.
That's why when people tell you, it doesn't matter whether you're in 4th grade, 5th grade, high school, you're an Olympic athlete. You either have it in you or you don't to get through it. You've got to get, like, people talk about how great these, they're so good here, they're so good there. But how are they under pressure? How are they when somebody hits them back?
Oh, I don't know. They just go out there, they get a hold of Robert Whittaker in the first 5-rounder of their UFC career. They go out there, they shoot a double leg on Robert Whittaker, they get a hold of him, get to his back, and submit him in the very first round and act like Robert Whittaker isn't an elite middleweight or a former champion.
What are they like when they're not the hammer and they're the nail?
He had a great back and forth with Gilbert Burns. There was times when he was the nail. He was taking some shots, giving some shots, kept moving forward, was waving Gilbert Burns on, got into the dogfight with him.
Yeah, and that's where we're at right now. He's fantastic when he's the hammer. I'm not denying that, and I don't think anyone is. I'm simply saying, what is he like when all of a sudden, boom, he gets cracked?
Happened in the Gilbert Burns fight. You see what I'm saying, man? Like, what is he talking about? It happened in the Gilbert Burns fight. It happened in the Gilbert Burns fight. Usman even landed some decent shots. Where did he wilt? Where did he fold? It never happened.
I've seen world-class,
Okay, and then he goes on his tangent. I've seen world-class athletes who look great in the gym and this and that. And when they get in there, they can't perform. When has Chimaev gotten in there and shown that he can't, that the spotlight's too much? Khamzat has went out there and performed in every single fight in his entire pro career, because I watched it before the UFC, and getting to the UFC, he has performed in every single fight. Sure, it was a dogfight against Burns and caught people off guard. Okay, he went the distance with Usman on short notice. Those are the things that people keep holding against him. Then he goes out there against Robert Whittaker. There's all these questions. 5-rounder, Whittaker, unbelievable fighter. Chimaev mows him over, and that's not enough. It's not enough. So according basically to Josh Thomson, no matter what Khamzat Chimaev does, it'll never be enough for Josh Thomson, which at the end of the day, who gives a shit what Josh Thomson thinks? But let's keep moving on. Just a couple more here. Basically kind of like talking about, will he break?
got hit one time in a fight, ran to the corner, covered up till the ref stopped it. It's just different. Like, we can talk about practice. We can talk about all we want. Like Allen Iverson would say, we're talking about practice. Like, this is not what we're doing here. We're talking about what happens in the fight game. Is Chimaev that guy? Does he fold? Does he break? I don't think he folds. I'm leaning more towards he does.
Dude, like, you see what I'm saying about, like, the rage bait, like, trying to bait us in to react to get pissed off? How can you say that? He literally got dropped, got his head spun around against Gilbert Burns, got back up, kept moving forward, got into a dogfight with him, and you're going to talk about this guy breaking. Absolutely insane. One of the most ridiculous things I've heard someone say talking about MMA. That Khamzat, I lead towards that, man. How? He showed you against Gilbert Burns. His fight's still going long enough for you, Josh. And he goes out there and gets into a war with Gilbert Burns, gets dropped, gets rocked badly, gets to a takedown, is able to take Gilbert Burns down, make it through the round, come back out and act like nothing happened. Craziness. Absolute craziness, man.
We've seen him dog it out, though. He dogged it out with Gilbert Burns. He didn't break.
I wouldn't say he dogged it out. I'm going to say he survived.
He did. How did he survive? What are you talking about? He survived. He dogged it out. He was fighting back. It's not like, which Angelo's going to actually bring that point up, where Aldo was basically surviving in round 3 after he, blew his gas tank against Ayman Zahabi. What do you mean, survive? What are you talking about? What fight are you watching? I'm convinced Josh does not watch the fights. I'm convinced. Or he just tells himself a bunch of lies, finally starts to believe it, and it's like, okay, that's what I believe. How can you believe about that with Khamzat Chimaev in that fight? It's craziness, man. Anybody, whether you like Chimaev or not, you have to sit there and say, if you go back and watch the Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat fight, that is one of the most entertaining fights that we have seen over the past several years. Without question, it was an unbelievable fight. An unbelievable fight. Khamzat, I think, along with a lot of other people, were expecting him to run through Burns, and he went out there and got into a freaking scrap with Gilbert Burns and did not back down. And Josh is making it sound like, oh, he curled up in the corner and shied away because he got into a fight. We saw that he could be the nail man. We saw that. Stop acting like he was the hammer in every fight. We saw against Usman some things weren't going his way. So all this stuff where you're talking about the sample size isn't enough. You got to see the grit and heart that Khamzat Chimaev has in the Gilbert Burns fight, in the Kamaru Usman fight, where he, things weren't always going his way at every second of the fight. I know how terrible to be in there with a world-class fighter and have a few moments to where, oh no, the other fighter's doing good. What are we talking about here? His expectations for Chimaev is for him to not get hit by a single shot, and so can't win it in the first round. So basically, Chimaev has to go out there for 25 minutes, take somebody down while still making it entertaining, because if it wasn't, then Josh would say it's boring, along with Big John. They'd sit up here and say how boring he is. So he's supposed to be entertaining. He's supposed to go out there, can't win the fight in a round, and then he has to somehow show that he's a dog and all these other things. How are you supposed to? It's insane, man. It's absolutely insane.
He survived, but he didn't survive like how Jose Aldo just survived.
That's
I mean,
true.
he wasn't he was still swinging.
Correct. You are correct.
He was not in. He definitely was.
Yeah, he was correct. Okay, moving on to just a little bit more here, a couple more. I mean, this stuff, I'm telling you, it really seems to me like he's saying some of these things to try to get a reaction. And I don't think so, because I know that he's close friends with Habib and all these different things. And I know that at times it sounded like there was some static between Chimaev and Habib, which I don't know that that's why he feels this way. But why does he not like Chimaev? What is his problem?
He's probably the best in the world in 1.5 rounds.
Yeah.
He's
probably. I think DDP can survive.
I think especially at middleweight. In a round and a half, he's the best in the world. What is he like after the round and a half?
And I think DDP will show us.
People were like, "Oh, you're crazy. He's this. You're a Chimaev hater." I'm not a Chimaev hater.
Yeah, you are. Everything that we've literally watched in this video and just heard him yap about. How can you say that I'm not a hater? You clearly are.
I know fighting. I see it.
I'm not a Chimaev hater. Hey, today's bad take discussion. Just how bad is Chimaev?
Yeah, for real though. Look, how can you sit dude? I'm telling you, that's why it feels like some sort of joke to me, but it's not, because we've heard Josh have these kinds of takes. So, all right, so just nuts, man. I don't understand this. I don't understand this at all. It's like no matter what Chimaev does, it'll never be enough to please Josh Thomson and enough for Josh to give him the credit. And you hear him say, oh, in 1.5 rounds, what does he look like after that? You saw it twice. Stop acting like you didn't see it. You saw it against Burns and Usman.
He's going to come back. If he wins in that first 1.5 rounds, you go, I see he's so good. He's this, he's that. Look, that was never the argument. He's the greatest fighter in a 1.5 rounds. The argument is, how is he after a 1.5 rounds?
I know how awful and how terrible of Khamzat Chimaev to finish Robert Whittaker in the first round. How dare Khamzat Chimaev have the ability to get people out of there in the first round? I mean, knock it off, Khamzat. Stop finishing people so damn quickly. What is this logic? It's insane, dude. And remember when Khamzat Chimaev beat Whittaker, Josh was up here basically saying, yeah, we just really haven't seen enough. We just haven't seen enough to give him the title shot, because what does he look like in those later rounds? Basically punishing him for going out there and running through Whittaker.
Does he win the second round fully? Does he win the third? Can he even get to the fourth?
He's never won a third round before.
You know what I mean? He lost to Usman, who's a 70-pounder. Stop giving him credit for beating Usman. Usman came out in a couple days' notice, and is a 70-pounder.
You still give credit to him. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are the greatest welterweights of all time? Khamzat's first committed move up to 185 pounds. Completely dominated Usman. Almost finished him in the first round. 10-8 first round. No one's ever done that to Usman. Took him down. Made it look like he couldn't wrestle. Took his back. Almost submitted him via rear naked choke. That's not impressive? No. Stop giving him credit. It's just ridiculous.
Stop. Oh, he's a world-class guy. Yeah, I know he is. But he's a 70-pounder.
Coming off 2 losses at the time.
Stop giving him credit for. He came in. Kevin Holland made weight for 170. He wasn't ready to fight 11 pounds overweight Chimaev. He did because he took the money. Good on him. I'm happy for him. Cash out, buddy. Get your money. But let's.
At any minute he can, man, to discredit what Khamzat has done, he will do it. He will do it. This is some craziness, man.
And then he has a dominant performance in the first round against Whitaker, who has been known to have teeth problems.
Yeah, I know. You keep saying that, and I get what you're saying. Like, the point is, he doesn't have Hercules strength. Like, this has happened to that dude's mouth before. But to even end up in that position that quickly against Robert Whitaker is pretty spectacular. Like, he ran through the dude.
Exactly. Like, what?
If it wasn't the teeth crushing, there was going to be a choke there. Like, he was going to finish him.
Nah, I wouldn't say that.
He was going to. He had his back. He had him in a horrible position. Dude. He would have thrown a couple little hammer shots to the side of the head, and then eventually he would have just sinked it in, man. Like, what is he talking about? Josh Thomson is just such a Chimaev hater, dude.
I wouldn't say that. I just wouldn't say that. How many times have people had Whitaker's back?
I'd have to go back and look. Not many. Not many people have gotten to Robert Whitaker's back, if like almost anybody at all, since he's been at middleweight. Like,
how many times? Multiple.
I don't know. How many?
So many guys have had his back.
Name 6.
Name 6. He hasn't even. God.
He can't even name anybody. So Josh is just like throwing stuff out there. Yeah, many guys have had his back. Who? And then at one point he was like, Yoel Romero probably. When does Yoel Romero never had Whitaker's back? And even if he did, Romero's no submission threat. It's just craziness, dude. The lengths that this guy will go to discredit Chimaev is absolutely insane. We only have one more clip because this video is long enough, I'm sure, at this point, probably longer than what I wanted it to be. But, dude, like, I don't understand this. I just genuinely do not understand the logic when it comes to Chimaev from Josh. I just don't get it.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
Okay, so is he as good as we think, or is he as shit as we think?
I think he is as good as we think.
Who as shit as we think? Who is we? How is he shit? If you go out there and do what he's done, how are you shit? Dude, the disrespect is crazy, dude.
I think he's as good as everybody has said.
Okay.
But I still think DDP beats him literally just because he is a brute force, never stop kind of guy. And if he survives, then he's good. But I do think Khamzat is that good. Correct.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, I know people are going to pick DDP. I have a lot of respect for Dricus du Plessis. I'm picking Khamzat to win. That's my guy, right? And I hope Khamzat can get it done and become the champion. But look, DDP is a hard fight, man. He's a very, very hard fight. And in my breakdowns, I've even said, look, Chimaev in the first couple rounds, if he can't get it done, he's probably going to be in a world of trouble against DDP, who's a very strong individual, a very well-rounded fighter, has very good striking, has power. It's probably going to be a problem. So to pick Dricus du Plessis, like, that's not a big deal. Like, you're picking a fight. But to completely discredit Khamzat Chimaev, and if Khamzat were to go out there and do what he does and finish DDP early, Josh would critique that and basically not be impressed because, oh, he got the fight finished early. It's absolutely insane. Khamzat Chimaev is not only a superstar, not only the most entertaining grappler in UFC history, in my opinion. Khabib was probably the most dominant. I'm saying the most entertaining, right, in terms of just getting after people and looking for a submission right away, the way that Chimaev fights. The disrespect from Josh is crazy when it comes to Khamzat Chimaev. To say that he's not a Chimaev hater, absolutely ridiculous. And then to watch this and still have the audacity to go, I'm not a Chimaev hater, after you basically discredit everything the guy has done, absolute craziness. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video, and if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. This was hard to hear, man, from Josh Thomson. I'm not shocked. Like I said, he said some really stupid shit when it comes to Khamzat Chimaev. This guy, Josh, man, he's an absolute idiot when it comes to talking about Chimaev.